episode of YanaTV. Have you ever asked yourself, why do some people succeed in business and life and others fail? Well, the secret is that you need two ingredients: the right mindset and the right tools to communicate and influence. And today's guest knows all about that. A serial entrepreneur, Callum Laing, will share with you all the secrets you need to know to become a key person of influence and achieve incredible success.
I spend a lot of time trying to convince entrepreneurs that these days the hardest bit is understanding what the market wants, and actually the delivery of it. There's always people out there that can deliver. What we see a lot of with a lot of entrepreneurs is they come up with an idea for a product and they spend all the time and effort and energy building the product, and then they go out trying to find a market that may or may not want it. And more often than not, the market doesn't want it. So that's hard work. So yeah, it's definitely, if you can understand what the market wants and sell it to them, then delivery is normally the easy part.
Well, I know that right now it's kind of becomes almost trendy to be an entrepreneur. So many people across many countries that I have been to, especially in their 20s and 30s, they all want to become what you called lifestyle entrepreneurs. So they all want to earn decent money, and at the same time they want to travel around the world, don't be particularly attached to any country, but still have enough living for the family and flexibility and freedom and everything else, right? So what you would say for them, because many of them are still aspiring, like they want to have it, but they're not quite there yet. So you say, don't develop the product first, see what is there and kind of find what people are looking for.
Yeah, so I always get in trouble with this.
Please bring it on. We like troubled people here.
So there's a lot of media hype about entrepreneurship these days, and entrepreneurs are the new rock stars, and you see a lot of stories about people that have left the corporate workforce, and they've followed their own dream, and they're all very happy. And I tend to have a slightly different view. And my view is entrepreneurship is really hard, like properly really hard.
Well, it's much harder than working for a paycheck.
Much harder. So in the last year or so, I've interviewed close to 1,000 business owners, and obviously throughout the years, I've met with a lot of them, and it's just consistently really hard work, and it's I think that has been lost in the whole glorification of entrepreneurship, and it's never been easier to start a business. There's when I was starting a business even 15 years ago, the amount of money you had to spend on IT and infrastructure and office space and all that was just huge compared to today. So it's a lot easier. That doesn't mean it's easy. And so I push back a little bit, and I think there's one of the interesting things that I see right now is a lot of top entrepreneurs are actually going back and working with companies. So you kind of look at a Google and you say, well, why Google Ventures, for example, or Google X, why are some of the top entrepreneurs in the world going to work in a job if being in a job is such a bad thing? And the reality is that entrepreneurship is about taking resources and creating something from that. And actually, when you're in a corporate environment, often cases you've got access to far more resources than the average entrepreneur would ever have. People would kill to get that kind of access. So I think actually what people are striving for is not the entrepreneurial freedom, they're striving for creative freedom. And I think one of the mistakes people make is thinking that you can get creative freedom by becoming an entrepreneur. And actually, you speak to any entrepreneur, especially ones that are sort of struggling, they'll tell you they've got no creative freedom, right? It's just panicking about how
you work 24/7, especially in the first 3 years of your business.
and then the next 3.
And then the next 3.
Yes. So I don't want to be sort of completely down it, because, obviously I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes, I was just going to say that what keeps you then still on this path? I mean, you could, or you also have a choice, right,
Yeah,
to
sure.
go and enroll big company, and so why are you still staying then, even though it is difficult and it is not always easy and there is not always freedom there?
I think I've been lucky enough to reach a level now where I have a lot of that freedom. I also get to pick and choose a lot of the projects that I can work on, and I certainly wouldn't be above working with a Google or if those opportunities come along, because it becomes more about how can you have a bigger impact, and finding partners, whether that's an employer or just a strategic partner, allows you to do that. Despite I think all I would say on it is that there needs to be a little bit of a reality check that it's not just because it's easy now to start and call yourself an entrepreneur. I said something the other day that just being unemployed with an idea doesn't make you an entrepreneur. But it's amazing how many people I meet that are an entrepreneur.
That's a good one.
And they're convinced it's the best thing ever, but they haven't made any money.
Well, that's important, right? With what you said, with entrepreneur, also you could have the most brilliant idea, but if you're not able to sell it, and if you're actually not able to make money with that, then something is not quite right there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest things. And I think the reality is that, I mean, this is one of my own checks now, is that I won't put money into my own business ideas anymore. Which kind of sounds a bit weird, but it's because generally I think my business ideas are brilliant. It just turns out the rest of the world doesn't always agree.
I'm sure many people can relate to that.
Yeah, so kind of my sanity check now for a project or a new business is how many other people can I get engaged in it before I do that. So whether that's going out and raising funding for it before I've done any work on it, whether that's getting forward orders from clients before we've actually created the product. But what I don't do anymore is build the product and go out and then try and sell it, because it's it just turns out that my ideas just aren't.
That's a good reality check. So what you're saying is that instead of, because the traditional way would be, right, but they say you invest some money at the beginning, and then when you're more or less above the water, then you go and raise funds.
Yeah.
So what you say that instead of doing that, you go and check the market upfront, and you see, because if people are ready to put any kind of money or orders in whatever you want to sell, so clearly market will resonate. So if they're not, then something not quite right with the idea.
Yeah, and the great thing about that, so, and look, I've made this mistake so many times, but it's very, very easy to go out to a market and say, hey, look, we're thinking about creating product X. If we create product X, will you pay Y for it? And generally speaking, the market will always say yes, because the market's very nice when it's a theoretical thing. And so what I would do is then I would go back and I would create product X, and I'd spend hundreds of thousands in development and everything else. And then I would go back to the market and go, ta-da. And they'd say, it's a really bad time. You know, we haven't got budget, or
I've heard those stories.
Yeah. So what's interesting now is the whole rise of things like Kickstarter. And I've seen a couple of VCs, venture capitalists, recently that have said they won't invest in a company unless they've done a Kickstarter campaign. And I think that that completely changes the game. And I think it is one of those, whether it's Kickstarter or another kind of crowdfunding, it forces the entrepreneur to get forward orders from the market. And that's such a good sanity check on whether your product is viable, because most entrepreneurs' market research, and I'm hugely guilty of this, is talk to your mates in the pub and say, would you buy this? And they go, yeah, I'd definitely buy that.
Tomorrow morning, ship it.
Yeah, so if you can actually get someone to put cold hard cash down, then that really is the only thing that that counts, or the alternatives, whether you can get investment because you can sell the idea to an investor. But without that, it's just building it and hoping they will come isn't a very good strategy.
And that's how you succeed in business and life. Make sure to apply everything what Callum teaches, and you're going to shortcut your way to success. Do you want to learn more tools and secrets on how to become a key person of influence? Go to www.YanaTV.com/Callum Laing and watch the full interview. And of course, share this episode with your friends and subscribe to our channel where we share inspirational interviews with people who make a difference. And until next time, stay focused, committed, and live fearlessly.